Hey, this is Jason J. Lewis, Superman from Justice League Action, and you're watching SuperWonder Legacy.
You're strong.
I know.
Are you a sight for sore eyes?
It's nice to have someone who likes you for being you.
It's okay. I've got you now.
Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy, the only show that knows that Lois Lane absolutely sucks. I'm Jared. I'm here with Britt. What's up, Britt?
Hello, hello.
I had to go on theme. So today we're talking about 1 year of Absolute Superman, because we did one about Absolute Wonder Woman, and we're going to be talking about what a story could look like if Absolute Superman and Absolute Wonder Woman met. Now, and we're having that same issue again where I can't share my screen. Oh boy, this is just great.
Oh, wow. Technology. Weren't we just talking about that?
Yeah, StreamYard is really, really annoying. Hang on, I'm going to try something. If I go out of...
Okay.
Oh, here it is. Here's the way to fix it. I have to go out of full screen because I have StreamYard on full screen. That's probably what the problem is. Or hang on. Let me do that. But anyway, folks, yeah, so we're talking about Absolute Superman because Absolute Superman is the series that I think is really... There you go. Really, it's kind of saving Superman when you think about it, because here's the thing about it. It's something new. And what do Britt and I have complained so many times that Superman comics are just the same thing over and over and over again. But with this, it's completely different. And the chief among them, isn't it kind of funny how when Superman is more of the champion of the oppressed and is more of the I love my Kryptonian heritage, or I respect it, Superman sells more?
Because he actually resonates with an audience, a diverse audience.
Exactly. And it's and that's the thing. That's why it's even when Britt has said that, look, it's taking a while for the story to advance, and it's we don't learn enough about Superman stuff. And I'm like, okay, those are all valid criticisms. The thing is, though, this is pretty much like the return of the new 52 Superman in terms of characterization and in status in society, being that champion of the oppressed. So that's why I defend this version so much.
I mean, you're right that he does have that. He's young, obviously. He has this, no nonsense of the government or whatever peacemaker, the military and stuff like that. And he is the champion of the oppressed, and that's what we've been wanting, been looking for. Even if, with him being a loner and not having the Kents, he did have the Kents, for a time. And, but he also had his parents, and that balance of both, sets of parents was a foundation for him. And he remains still this, putting people in need first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it's with this version of Superman, and it's look, this is a Superman that he's not necessarily the bright and happy person, which I love how the Superman fandom, I mean, still turns on him because they're he's too grimdark. And I go, he's what post-crisis Superman should have been.
The thing with that is that post-crisis Superman, he continues to have things, given to him on a platter. And he, if something, goes wrong, he basically throws a tantrum, or it's not right, it's deemed wrong. And he's supposed to have everything like this happy sunshine type um feel about himself. That's just not how things go. You know, the Boy Scout, the perfect family, the nuclear family, all of that, poster boy for the American way in the most obnoxious way. That's that doesn't resonate. That's not who Superman is supposed to be. Um, so with the criticism of Absolute being grim dark and all of that, or that he's trying to be like Batman, as they said for New 52 Superman. First of all, to say that Superman is trying to be like Batman, you don't know Golden Age Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Because Batman's influence came from Golden Age Superman, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of thing, this again is all of this revisionist history within DC and how things has came about over time, and what was the actual quote unquote right way, and that was the right way, is now ostracized or judged, or now is deemed wrong or not the character. These characters have been around since uh, late 30s, early 40s.
Mm-hmm.
They were not created in 1986 with John Byrne. They were not. And I think that that is the problem with these fans, that they don't go back and read pre-crisis. They just immediately start with post-crisis. And I also blame DC for that, because they think that post-crisis is the one and only continuity, or what's canon or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But especially within the 90s and early 2000 stuff, that is what basically caused DC to be in the state that it's in now. And they had some ups within that time, but the long term was a fall down. And that is why they rebooted. uh, that is why they are close to rebooting yet again, going back to that time that they felt like, yeah, it might have been easier, and this nostalgic trip for the writers who grew up in that era, or um, worked on the characters within that era. But that is not the era, obviously, for the modern audience. And this is, again, your second time doing this, and your modern audience wants this new 52 is type setting.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like the other thing about it is even on that. Let's talk about post crisis real quick. 'Cause here's the thing about post crisis DC. There's a lot of revisionist history about that era in and of itself. Because here's the thing about post crisis. That's when Superman died. Like, I got news for you. More, I would argue, more stories in post-crisis Superman were dark than were light. It's just, again, you have those same idiots on Twitter that take out like isolated panels of Superman smiling, or they treat All-Star Superman like it's part of it, even though All-Star Superman is out of continuity. It's an Elseworld story. And it's like, even like for all seasons, yeah, that's few and far between. When you look at it, most of the stories are, I would say, like halfway between dark and happy, and like very happy. Well, here's the thing also on that. I don't want to say dark like it's a bad thing, because dark stories serve a purpose, but it's like, in terms of tone, post-crisis is one of the darkest eras that DC has. So when people talk about like New 52 being grimdark, all it is because they're nostalgic, and then DC threw away their era of DC, and that they feel disrespected. All of a sudden, oh yeah, it's really bad.
It's also the fact, again, that their darkness of post crisis is veiled with these happy endings, that okay, you wrap up these stories and everybody is smiling, happy, like everything like basically nothing happened.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's no consequences on that. It's like, okay, it's all good to go. But anyway, so post-crisis, so the post-crisis, absolute Superman. So let's talk about what this series achieved. It brought, see, here's what this said, because Britt and I have always said that so here's the thing with Superman. You always want that balance of the character. Now with this one, we get it where like the human part of him isn't necessarily developed yet, but that just comes from the fact that he came to Earth as an adult. So it's different from him like growing up on Earth. But with this, you know what else I really love about this, Britt? This successfully refutes the he needs Lois to be human. Because guess what? Lois is in this series. She's a bit of a villain in this for at least most of the story, as she is in the main continuity. But when
She's an oppressor.
yeah, she is an oppressor. She works for the oppressive Lazarus Corporation. More on that later. But it's the idea that he's not really like he's not overly alien. Like it looks like he wants to connect to people. But as we saw in like Absolute Superman 12, it's more like he's afraid of what his powers will do to people, which will be very interesting when he meets Absolute Wonder Woman. That's called foreshadowing for later in the episode. But it's really cool seeing that, like, no, he doesn't turn into a dictator if he doesn't have Lois.
Yeah, you gotta like that is a positive within the series. That you see, you know, even at a young age, you know, he wanted to help people, and that was his natural calling in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other thing that I think is really cool is, okay, so here's the interesting thing about Jason Aaron as a writer. So previous to this, I only knew him from his Marvel work. And his Marvel work near the end was meh at best. Because he did the Thor series, which I felt was pretty cool. I've sent you a few of the panels from that. But the thing is, he did some things where like replacing Thor with a girl and like saying, oh, Thor is a mantle. He basically character assassinated the Punisher. And he had a horrible run on Avengers. So when he came to DC, I was like, which Aaron are we going to get? And it just happens that whenever Marvel creatives come to DC, most of the time, short of He Who Must Not Be Named but had a really crappy Superman run, most of the time the writers really hit their stride. Like with this shows me that Aaron 100% understands to the core who Superman is. And that's the thing with like all of the different Absolute books. Take Batman. Scott Snyder clearly understands Batman as a character. I mean, he wrote Batman the New 52 after all. We talked many an episode about how Kelly Thompson clearly understands Diana to her core. Same thing with Jason. And it never ceases to amaze me how you could take the writer that has the most like I won't say controversial, but rocky like reputation. And then when you put him in the right book, it creates gold.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Muted.
it's all good. It's all good.
Um,
I was like, are you there?
yeah. I mean, that's with every writer. You know, they have to find a character that resonates with them first
Yeah.
and that they can't understand. A lot of these writers, they want to change the character to fit their perspective. Tom King. So you can feel that you know, yeah, with Scott Snyder, even though he is very much a Frank Miller, Michael Bay mixed, you know, baby or whatever.
That's such a great way to describe it. It's he's if Michael Bay and Frank Miller had a baby. That's so good.
Definitely. So, but he loves Batman. He loves horror. And he, you know, put both of his loves together. And that is how, Absolute Batman was created. And that is the number one, DC series.
Clearly, it's
Um,
working.
yeah, clearly it's working. Even, you know, Absolute Wonder Woman, and it's so funny because you have this discourse on Twitter as usual, when some people like the character or this iteration of Diana. And it's as I've said, and as a lot of us said on Twitter, she has the same personality as mainline Diana. The only thing is that you have a writer who loves her lore and loves her. So it comes out a little bit more than compared to the main line right now.
Yeah. Oh, by
And
the way, Kelly Thompson is another writer that had kind of a shaky record in terms of writing great series versus meh. But again, it's like it's that's the magic of comics, because you could put even Tom King. There are characters that Tom King can write really, really, really well. I've read them. It's just not anything recently, and certainly not on Wonder Woman. But it's and this is where, and this is like what the King off Wonder Woman movement was about. And I had people calling for King to be fired, and I said, no, 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 that's not what this is. What this is, because he clearly wanted different characters like Detective Chimp and all that stuff, because that's why he pitched him in here. But it's like, look, put him on the books that he really wants to write. He sells better. Put someone that take George Perez. George Perez loved Wonder Woman, and that became, for lack of a better term, the blueprint.
right, it's you know, as we said, you have to love the character. Um, Going back to Thompson, she said it herself. Um, with Absolute Wonder Woman, she was supposed to be kind of like goddess, god of war,
Mhm.
basically female Kratos. But she felt like that was not Diana, and
Mhm.
she wanted to be as close as mainline, especially with her being recognizable.
Mhm.
And that's the discourse, is that Absolute Wonder Woman is basically mainline Wonder Woman. She just has a
Mhm.
different costume
So
in
many
its sense.
people consider her mainline Wonder Woman right now. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And there
So
are people that consider the Absolute books to be the new mainline books.
I'm honestly,
Me too, honestly, because the stories are better, in my opinion.
I mean, Absolute is, carrying DC, as itself right now as a
Mhm.
main line. So you can't help but to think think that way. Um, and that also says how, I wouldn't say bad, but just it has to be something for the main line to at least somewhat become recognizable or invest in or something.
I mean,
Because
even Britt, the trade for Absolute Wonder Woman was in the top 5 selling trades for 2 months in a row.
yeah, when
What?
didn't they have the trade? Yeah, the trade came out for Tom King's Wonder Woman, and I did not see it on any list.
I'll check, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
because, but yeah, it's but with absolute, all the absolute books were like 1, 2, 3, 4, practically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm like, that's what happens. But it's like
but
back to absolute. Actually, yeah, I could go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, but unless it's like All Star, Kingdom Come, or Watchmen, anything obscure that maybe James Gunn has mentioned, those are the only trades that chart. But the
Hmm.
fact that your main line, those trades are nowhere to be found, that speaks volume of something has to give, something has to be changed.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
the fact that your mainline trades and single issues are doing horribly, yeah, there needs to be something different.
And here's the other thing: it's the trades that aren't absolute, that are selling well, are the back issue trades. Like I picked up the DC Finest for Peter David Supergirl. I thought of you, and these are doing great. The compact comics are doing great. It's not necessarily like it's only the mainstream DC that are doing well. It's primarily and this has been the way for like so long with the main line. It's like the main line has always suffered to back issues because that was more where there was a standard storytelling. But anyway, so then Absolute does something very interesting with Superman. They let him, in addition to the suit, because he always either has the suit with him or was made by Martha. With this, he got to take a piece of Krypton with him in the form of Soul. And let me tell you this, it is so cool to see him be able to, because you know that this is kind of the Absolute version of like the Jor-El AI that like he talks to. But with this, I really like how Soul is more of like, it's not necessarily, I like the idea in this that it's not necessarily his father. It's just like a friend, because you see more of an organic bond forming beyond like the I am conditioned to trust my father. And you see Clark, I'm going to call him Clark, whatever. He grows to trust Soul and eventually says, hey, I consider you're a member of the House of L. You are Soul L.
He actually, in the, I believe it's the last issue, called sold his brother.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the way that because originally Clark was like, no, shut up and let me handle the situation. But slowly but surely, it shows this is the thing. This has been very compared to the Snyderverse, and to a certain degree, I see it. But there's one thing that people haven't brought up. And this was the beautiful part of Absolute Superman 12. This reminds me of in the Snyder Cut when Cyborg is in the mother boxes and he says, I'm not broken and I'm not alone. And that really hit the beats on this, because until Kara shows up, Clark is relatively alone. And in this, he's not. He has a piece of his home. Because remember, this Clark remembers Krypton. This isn't like he's a baby. He remembers Krypton. So he has that like last lifeline to that important part of him. So as he adjusts to his new home, he doesn't have to forget Krypton.
Exactly. And I did like that was still issue 12 when he creates the fortress around him.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
And it's
that
red. I love the use of red in this issue, just like in Absolute Wonder Woman, is spectacular.
red would be their complementary color and favorite color
Oh yeah,
together.
they definitely. Oh yeah, that's the funny part. They do have that in common. Actually, I have Absolute Superman right here. Let me pull that up. But yeah, that is very interesting how they have that color in common. And yeah, there it is. And if you notice, it looks very much like the James Gunn Superman Fortress.
Yeah, it does.
Which that's not a bad fortress design, but yeah, it is really cool just seeing Clark like interact with this AI, and the AI like controls his suit and stuff, and like will tell him about his like his Kryptonian like thing, and allows him to like learn English fast. So there's like a lot that like Soul does. So it's like, but it's like it's the best form of like maybe symbiosis is what I would use, is the term that I would use for this relationship. What do you think?
It's now that they've basically put it in the perspective, or Aaron has put it in the perspective, that the soul is his guide, but also like a brother to him, and that's what he needed. He needed that, you know,
Family.
right, family. He needed that closeness of something to Krypton to basically let him put his guard down or not feel as help him through his trauma a little bit more.
Mhm.
And he's more willing to be more open with people now that he feels like he has that family, that memory not being of a tragedy, but that at least I have a soul to help
Mhm.
me.
It's like, because as far as he knows and as far as we know, he is the last Kryptonian. We know that could be true, that could not be true. But it's the idea that and here's the other way to think about it, Britt. Who made his suit?
I know his mother.
So in a way, it's like him of like bringing a piece of his mom with him.
Exactly. That was another thing, another positive here was, you know, mainline Superman, well, post-crisis Superman has Martha making his suit, you
Hmm.
know. But here you have Lara, well, making the suit, but he takes the suit on, and but it still has that motherly feel to it. You emphasize on both mothers, really. That is the thing. um New 52 and Absolute focus, the focus remains equal to both sets of parents, or at least the mothers.
Called
What
balance.
when we had New 52 Superman, we had the Secret Origin special
Hmm.
where they had the story of, first it was the story of Laura, then it goes into Martha, and then combining them
Hmm.
together to see that these two women, one who had a natural birth, and she, out of like thousands of years or so, on Krypton, she has her child, she loves him, but she has to let him go. And she hopes that someone who loves him as much as her will take him on, and that someone is Martha. And so with Martha right there, that gives that full circle moment. And that is what you feel here again with Absolute, is that you have Laura, you know, being very independent. She's not that mute wife on Jor-El's shoulder that post-crisis have. She's very much her own character in the forefront. And then Martha, even though she has Alzheimer's or dementia,
Hmm.
because years have passed, it's still the fact that she remembers Cal in some way, and she is somewhat of that sense of peace that he needs.
She calls him her angel,
Right.
which the cape has to be its own like cool thing in this, because when that cape turns into wings, and it's like, or when like you all of a sudden you see this red blur and blob coming at you, and like all the peacemakers are like, what the hell are we gonna do against this thing? I'm like, yes. Anyway, speaking of peacemakers, as a matter of fact, we also, again, champion of the oppressed, because that's what Golden Age Superman was, that's what New 52 Superman was. And it's Superman. See, here's what you do. This is where you do a book that has a message that deals with a form of modern day politics, but does it in a way that you can detach the modern day politics from it and just read it as a good story. Or you can put in that. And it's like, okay, and it still is effective as a story without it. And that's the other thing that really surprises me, because this is something that Jason Aaron struggled with when he was at Marvel. He would always put in the modern stuff, but ham fisted. With this, no, it's completely organic. I get it. And the fact of having helicopter tanks is something that could only happen in the absolute universe.
Right. It's, as we said, it's something about a comfort. And I think that the fact that Aaron is basically creating this character as like
Hmm.
his own,
Yeah.
that gives him a little bit more comfort than being within editorial guidelines basically.
Yeah.
Snyder did say that of course, when they do certain things, editorial will call them up and be like, okay, no, whatever. He hasn't gotten a call like that within as far as, absolute. He did get a call from that for the main line with KO. But so far they are able to basically have a little bit of free reign more than the main line. And I think that is also the key to it and why he is able to, I guess, balance out the political aspect as well.
Yeah, exactly. And again, this is the way I've always said, if you want to have a political message in here, because here's the other thing it does, Britt. Ignoring taking a side or anything like that, or offending people or alienating people, ignore that. It severely dates your story, because a good story, you can read it at any point, and guess what? It's going to still resonate. But if you have something that's super specific to an issue of the day, 10 years, 5 to 10 years down the line, you read it, you're like, why do I care about this?
Right. It's either something that you don't care for, is outdated, or is dated to a point of being offensive, not aging
Exactly.
well.
And he's taken the X-Men approach where you make it general enough, because everyone, there's going to be oppressed people in the world no matter what. So it's at any time in the world, unless all of a sudden the rapture happens. So it's like, it's an issue that will continue to exist in the world. So it's an issue that is timeless. If you take a position, if you use the timeless issue, your story is totally fine. You can read at any point.
Right, and that I think is the main point, the goal of Absolute. And that was the goal in a sense of New 52, is that you can get into these characters. They aren't confined to a certain status quo or just having these restrictions. These are new characters. They have, clean slate of an origin, um, or no baggage, things like that. And you can build on just the character. No, you don't want to change their core,
Mm-mm.
you know, but that's the thing. New 52 Superman did still have that core, though. He did.
Exactly. And so does Absolute. That's why the Absolute books are doing so well, because they still for the most part have the core of who each character is. That's why, like with Wonder Woman, that's why it feels like mainstream Wonder Woman, but just put in a new scenario. Or with this guy, feels like what mainstream Superman should be, or what new what Grant Morrison Action Comics Clark was. And that way, you can put, this shows that you can put them in very different worlds, in very different scenarios, without compromising the integrity of the character.
Exactly. As long as you keep them with their core values, and it doesn't have to do with who they're dating or whatever. It's
Mhm.
just them as individual characters. As long as they're recognizable in that sense, yeah, you can put them in any setting.
Yeah, exactly. And so then we get to the myth, trauma, and isolation. And the thing about this version, by the way, hell of a Dan Mora cover. The other thing I really love is the suit. I want to talk about the suit real quick. It's sleek, it's simple, it has the armored look of New 52. It doesn't have the trunks, and I love the glowing arms and legs when his when his like solar energy is charged. That just looks it because one of the things that people always say is that the red trunks help like break up the color. No, this helps break up the color really well.
Quite honestly, I mean, that whole breaking up the color thing, it's not like he had a onesie on. And
No.
the red belt of New 52 was just fine. I mean, it all depend on who drew the suit. You know,
Hmm.
sometimes it looked armory bulky. It looked weird, funny with all the
Even though,
lines.
even though, by the way, the debut of that armor, by the way, wasn't armor. It's a suit. It's not armor.
Right. And then you have it was very sleek, you
Mhm.
know, and it, like I
It
said, it
was
just
meant to be more alien, to quote Jim Lee, because he's Kryptonian.
right. It all depended on who drew the suit, and it worked. You know,
Mhm.
the trunk suit, it just it's a classic or whatever, but it is outdated. He does look like an old man now. He feels like an old man. You
And the
know,
trunks just look like too many artists draw it as a separate piece, and it just doesn't work. Where with this, it looks totally fun. Well, first off, this is very segmented. Like here, wait, hang on, I'm trying to. Okay, like here, here, and here. So it doesn't look like it's one piece. And again, the glowing on the arms and legs really. See, again, it's like a lot of Superman suits have the same basic layout of blue, red ass and stuff, but adding on these like points here just makes it all the more unique, combined with the dust cape, which is one of the coolest things I have ever seen in a Superman comic.
exactly. I mean, you need something unique, and honestly, the dust cape needs to be a thing.
Oh yeah, because it is one of the cool. I love that one scene where he saves a bunch of people by using the cape as like a bubble, and then he's putting band-aids on people with the cape, and I go,
Exactly.
oh, that is so cool. I can't believe they know that. And then when he's fighting the peacemakers and they almost look like devil wings, I'm like, oh my god.
Right. It's basically a main character of its own.
Oh yeah, it definitely is, and that's more like Soul actually fighting alongside him. That's the other thing. Soul is actually fighting alongside him with the cape. That's the amazing part. But even on
Right.
this, because the other thing about this is that you definitely get the idea if you're paying attention to the subtext of his dialogue and his narration, particularly when the Krypton escape. He's talking about, oh, the rich people are probably in their own like extravagant ships, while the poor have to like crawl over each other to get on the arcs. And then he shows up on Earth, and I think that's the reason why he becomes sort of the champion of the oppressed, because you get the feeling, even though he hasn't been on Earth for that long, he is trying to protect the Earth because he doesn't want Earth to repeat the same mistakes as Krypton.
And also even the fact that the family crest,
Mm-hmm.
it basically, you know, symbolizes the class that he was in,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the lower class, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
It
the
was the
oppressed,
workers.
the workers, the oppressed class, but it just gave it more, it gave it more meaning, you know. It's not just a family crest and how, you know, again, main line, especially with he who shall not be named, uh, what number 5,000 that
I'll give you a hint. His first name is Brian.
yeah. Um, when he wanted to make it seem like the House of L was royalty, that they basically like a space prince or whatever, you know. And
That's what he tried to do. Are you kidding me?
yeah, and they've pretty much ran with that idea. I think that was already a thing within Post Crisis. I'm not quite sure, but they have been trying to do that whole thing, and now Philip uh Kennedy Johnson, you know, with his House of L, that's basically a thing where, you know, trying to make Superman seem like this, oh, he's this space royalty. And that's pretty much why I call him Space Zeus after a while, because they want him to become that. And then with his legacy, especially with what Philip Johnson did, was have Clark with, you know, these kids. And it's kind of like, that's not his character should evolve to. So you do take away the humanity of these characters. Is not just because of his relationship, it's because they glorify him in such a way that it makes him the the one out of touch, you know. So with this change of the crest just being um representative of the oppressed, and Cal actually fighting for the oppressed with the crest on, that resonates so much more and has so much more meaning than, oh, now it means he's royalty.
Yeah,
When it's not
exactly.
even, and especially when it's so unearned.
Yeah, exactly. But with this, it's like it's more of like it's more of again where he's trying to save people. And again, with 12, where they show a flashback of him like tearing someone's arm off because he doesn't know his own strength. That leads it shows again why he was just saving people from the shadows, much like Henry Cavill Superman was in Man of Steel. I would not be surprised if Aaron watched Man of Steel and was inspired by it because he took the best parts of it and applied it into this series. That may or may not be another reason why I like this series so much. I really dig that. And then here's the other point: keeping Superman in character, because it still feels like the core of who Superman is. It still feels like the Siegel and Schuster's character. It doesn't feel like, and it's a lot of the people not liking this are the post-crisis Superman fans. Isn't it funny how the version that aligns more with the heart of the character and not the post-crisis version is the one that the post-crisis version people don't like? That should tell you something, shouldn't it, Britt?
Exactly. It definitely does.
I'm just saying that's the funny part. Whenever they try and do anything new with Superman, notice the post-crisis fans throw a fit. And I go, isn't that interesting? And here's the thing. They call it grimdark. No, it's not that, because again, and then it's the other thing. Aaron got back to the immigrant roots of the character, because that's I'm not an immigrant. I've lived in America all my life, but I'm sure that's how immigrants feel when they come to a foreign country. I'm sure.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and rip the band-aid off or whatever, just tell the truth. They only call it grimdark or whatever is given that he isn't smiling or isn't with Lois.
Yeah, I know. That's the other advantage of this. He's not with Lois. I know, yet, but you know what? I'm going to enjoy it while I can that he's not, and maybe I'm going to hold out hope that maybe he doesn't get with Lois and maybe gets with a certain Amazon. I mean, we'll see, but the potential is there.
Never mind.
What? Come on.
I mean, that's kind of like reaching.
I don't know, Britt. Come on.
That is reaching. I'm sorry.
He had every opportunity in 12 issues to make Superman and Lois fall in love.
I mean, we never know about the next arc or so.
Yeah, we'll see. But so then we get to Standout Moments, and Lara being a badass with a giant ass gun and saving Jor-El was not something I had on my bingo card for Superman. But I need to say, Absolute Lara is my favorite version of Lara of all time now. Like, oh my God, she is badass.
She's neck and neck with New 52,
Yep.
but I would still give her like a little edge, definitely.
I love where she built the suit. She's like, I'm gonna go get your dad back. And she like blasts in, the helmet's down, and she's like destroying people with the cape. I'm like, oh, that's so dope. The other so you also have the emphasis on Krypton, which I love because we don't get that much with modern Superman. And the other thing I really like with Standout Moments is, from a storytelling perspective, taking Ra's al Ghul, a Batman villain, and making him the Superman villain. Because here's why that's genius. Because we should have seen it coming the minute we heard the words Lazarus Corporation. But here's why this is a genius use of a villain. because yeah, you should see it coming, but in the back of your mind, you're like, there's no way that this is gonna be Ra's al Ghul because he's a Batman villain. Lo and behold, when this happens, look at how cool that story gets. And then you also have the Brainiac issue, which what's cool about that is that it really emphasizes the horror of Brainiac, particularly when he turns Christopher Smith, Peacemaker, like the Peacemaker, into Metallo. And it's like, it's very like horror and stuff. Or it's like when he's shoveling destroyed Brainiacs into like a furnace. And it's like, here's the cool thing about that absolute Brainiac version. That's fits enough with the main Brainiac that could be main continuity Brainiac, and I wouldn't even bat an eye.
I mean, the horror part is definitely that seemed like a Snyder idea. It's yeah, I wouldn't be
but
surprised
it's
if
cool,
that
and
idea was
it fits Brainiac. So it fits Brainiac. So that's why I'm not like it's that's why it's not a problem for me.
It's not. It's really if you are into horror type stuff, you know, it's really cool. It's a lot of it definitely goes into the part of the writers have free reign to do, you know, whatever they want and really show more graphicness, you know, that they want that they would want. Um, but yeah, it's quite interesting. I would say it is a better design than the generic, basically a green man, though that
It's
sometimes
true.
Brainiac looks like. So yeah, it's different.
The other thing that I really like is the suit became his ship, because it's like that eliminates the question of how did the Kents hide his rocket ship? No, it just turned back into his suit.
Yeah, these types of changes make sense and it simplifies things for the better. Yeah, it just all works.
Yeah, exactly. And I just love the Dust Cape symbolism of he is, as far as we know right now, he is the last son of Krypton. And it's like, and it's a way of his people fighting alongside him in addition to his brother Soul. So it's like the more that they emphasize with that cape, it is just so and the fact that it's dust, it explains you can do so much more with the dust cape like that, where it's like it could be any shape or size. One of my favorite moments, you know how much I hate Peacemaker, right, Britt?
Yes.
So so Absolute Superman has a moment that may be on par with the Apollo, you don't know that much about me moment, when Peacemaker slash Metallo goes, there he is, I got him. He flies up. You don't see the fight. All of a sudden you see Peacemaker crash into a mountain like Superman did in James Gunn's Superman, and he's like completely laid out. And there's Absolute Superman hovering like a badass. And me, who hates Peacemaker and loves seeing his ass get kicked, was like, yes, murder him. I just hate that character, but it was just so cool. And it's like, that's the part that I love the way this is done. And here's the thing about Absolute Superman that's great. And this is the same thing for like a lot of the Absolute books. When they do something cool, they don't overdo it. They do the cool thing, move on with the plot. They'll do another cool thing, but then they'll move on with the other plot. They don't keep overdoing it. It's like everything here is expertly crafted.
Right, they are. I would say this book, um, it's kind of is moving at a glacial pace, you know, just a little bit. But it's true that they do have a lot of things planned far ahead, you know, because they have that confidence that this is going to continue on. You know, it's not just twiddling your thumbs trying to see, oh, is this going to last for a year or 2 years? You know, they are mapping all of this out.
And but I love New York Comic Con when Marvel announced that their Ultimate Universe, basically their Absolute Universe, is ending. Someone asked Scott Snyder about that, and he goes, "We have no plans to end the Absolute Universe." That's basically Scott Snyder giving the middle finger to Marvel.
I mean, of course, Snyder, he doesn't have any plans to end it because his book is number one. So, of course not.
Well, I mean, because, but the other thing, by the way, I have heard this. The other thing, this is the effect of the Absolute Universe. To go back to what Britt and I said, I have it on good authority that people are like younger kids or like young adults are starting pull lists for the first time just for the Absolute books. Like you have it for the first time in a long time. Marvel is pulling newer kids into the hobby.
I mean, that was the same reaction within New 52.
I
So,
know, isn't it kind of funny how we're seeing a repeat of history, which makes me think, here's the good part about this being a separate universe. They can keep it separate. They don't have to worry about editorially going, okay, we want to go back to the way things were before. And it could still happen because this is editorially DC, but the fact that they can keep their rickety falling apart continuity, and we can have this nice compact universe, if you will.
and especially now that you have, Wade being tasked with the DC history that is already complicated, and continuity is, you have to rearrange things anyway. So it's not, are you really telling the history of DC when it's not even in order?
Well,
Or you have to,
did you see the preview where they basically say Flashpoint happened with a reboot?
yeah, and the fact that I'm pretty sure they will not, actually acknowledge the New 52 as you would think. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I doubt that they will have New 52 Superman and Wonder Woman. I doubt that, honestly, anything such as that. The Justice League, I would say that they would say the events happened, but of course, not the way that they were, and not in the same suits, just things like that. It's still you're rewriting history. So how is this actually history? Or it's the fact that even with the New 52, they will only cherry pick certain things so it won't contradict, what they're trying to align with now. And
Mm-hmm.
that's still not the history.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. But overall, yeah. But I mean, it's a good idea for them to have a book to refer to for like history. But the problem is, how long is that going to last as the history of the DC universe? Is my
I mean,
question, because things change.
it's not even lasting now. And the last issue comes out Wednesday, and it's already being contradicted with KO because they did
Well,
mention.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was saying that they did mention New 52 and the reboot and all of that. So honestly, it's already being contradicted.
Well, Robert and I have the theory that this new history is taking effect after KO. In other words, because because they basically imply that the world's going to blow up during KO and then be reset. So that's what we think is like the new history is gonna take effect after this event.
But that still doesn't make sense because that means that you're Wonder Woman year one and all of that, you're still rewriting things. So, I don't know. But that is just, they shouldn't have done this history thing. Like, they shouldn't have just left, should have just left things alone because it's a mess. And trying to say what is and what isn't canon when writers will um
They'll reference whatever they want,
reference
no
whatever they
matter
want
what.
anyway. Exactly. It just doesn't make sense. And this is not a true guideline to anything. And I think from the very first issue, one fan called them out, basically saying that they got information about the Hawks from a fan site in the first place. Another issue, they had some dates wrong anyway. So it was kind of like you're messing up things that should be already within the historical, backlog of DC anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see, but it's yeah, we'll see what happens with this. But I'm with you, Britt. I don't see the history of the DCU lasting that long in terms of like the definitive history, because they'll be retconned to crap soon. Anyway, so then we get to the second half of this episode. So Britt and I have talked about absolute. By the way, real quick before we transition, actually, Britt, what would you say besides the glacial pace is some of the weaknesses of Absolute Superman? To be fair,
I would say, well, that is really the only thing because the characters themselves, it's fine. Cal, he's this loner. He's still traumatized. So his loneliness, it will take some time for him to start, opening up. And he just did in the 12th issue, so it's just fine.
mm-hmm.
Honestly, that's it. It's just that is glacier paced. And there is an issue with the Al Ghul's, I guess, because fans of that family is kind of tired of them being depicted the way that they are, especially Talia. I get that, because she does have it hard, even with the main line. And you're basically repeating the same storyline with her of being like this blindly, loyal to her father and everything. And then you do have this sort of plot line that is a rehash of Batman. So it's kind of like you want to get away from that. But I would say that's the only nitpick I have.
Yeah, the pacing is the only problem I have because now here's why the pacing part doesn't bother me that much. The issues that come out, all of them are fun and enjoyable and expand the world. So it's not necessary. It would be one thing like Tom King's Wonder Woman, where the like glacial issues, i.e., all of them are crap. But it's like with this, they're all gold, at least in my opinion. So it's like I'm still enjoying it though. That's the thing.
Right. It just all depends on where, things go.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to how would Absolute Superman and Wonder Woman meet? Because we know that Wonder Woman and Batman are going to meet at one point. Before you guys say anything, I highly doubt Kelly Thompson would do Absolute Wonder Bat. I highly doubt that. But so with this, the thing that's going to be really interesting to see how these two meet. And Britt, you actually pointed out really well. It's like they're the reverse of the traditional Superman and Wonder Woman relationship. You pointed that out, and when I was going through the chat, I was like, the notes, I was like, oh my gosh, they are.
Yeah, to me, it's basically the reverse of, the main line. And it's something that could be sentimental. It's something that could be very profound, just, how their relationship should be. You have, Cal, who is lost, who actually had his family, and then to lose it at such a young age still, it takes a toll on him. And he has to find his way of either a found family or just accepting this, but being the hero that he should be. Then you have Diana. She never knew about her family. She was taken away from that, or they were taken away from her. She has the opportunity to reunite with them, but as far as what Thompson says, she will never, reunite with them. So it's still that sense of loss that they don't have family. Yes, Diana has Circe, but Circe is still, on the island, the in hell, and it's just not a place that Diana should be. You know, Cal, he had the Kents, but again, that is somewhere where he can't be because it puts so many people in danger. So it's kind of like they have to find their sense of place still, even in this world that they do in the main line. And that is how they connect. That they're both these lost souls just looking for a home.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to the inside out part, and by that's again the image of the Fortress of Solitude, which I love. But yeah, explain how they're turned inside out again, because it's genius.
Okay, so as I said, Cal, he has everything of Krypton. He was what, 13, when the tragedy struck. So it's like he saw it before his eyes. And honestly, yeah, he carries that trauma with him, and he just doesn't know how to bring people into his world, or lack of, but it's so hard to be attached, thinking that, you know, he's going to lose so many people yet again. And then Diana, she doesn't have anything of Themyscira. She's searching for it. But even if she searched for it, like we saw with Io, it's still the fact that, like Thompson said, she's never going to actually reunite with them. So no matter how many pieces they find of their homes that they long for, they will never get it back. But at least Cal still has that memory. Diana doesn't have it at all, you know. And so when they meet, well, if we were writing it, of course, when they meet, it will be something of, wow, I finally found someone again about that. It's that shared understanding of loss and longing and just wanting to, you know, find something to hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
But Diana, even though she doesn't have, you know, um, the reversal for her is that just because she doesn't know about the mascara, and you know she's not blocking it out. She's longing to find pieces of it and to know the history of it, to know the Amazons, to know her, you know, that life that she could have had. That's the
Yeah.
total opposite of mainline Superman, is that he, as a baby, Krypton exploded. He does have the fortress and all. He can piece it together. But of course, we see post crisis or whatever, or the version right now, he doesn't care for Krypton, you know. So that's pretty much the opposite of what's going on here too. And I like that because this is the better story that mainline with Wonder Woman, that mainline Superman should have. And then you have, again, Absolute Cal, who grew up on Krypton. He cares for it. He, embraces it. But even if he is so distant from man's world or whatever, he still finds this sense of, I'm going to help though anyway, because I don't want this world to end up like Krypton.
Exactly. And it's kind of interesting. It's a very interesting like reappraisal slash revisitation slash rehashing in the best way of Justice League 12, when they talk about how like people like us really are alone. Only in this way, neither has their people.
Exactly. That, in a way, yeah, that's basically what you can do with this.
Watch, if we ever end up actually doing this for DC, watch, we just do Justice League 12, but with the absolute characters. That's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. DC wouldn't probably let us. It's like, oh, you like Super Wonder? No.
Oh yeah, we'll see. But anyway, so that we have the first encounter between these two.
So for me, and especially with Kyle being so distant, and he's always on the run. I would imagine that, and Diana's journey of finding, all of these um, people, chosen people of special powers and all of that. She finds him in an unlikely place that is reminiscent to basically the edge of the world. And it's kind of like there's no place to go. And they're very much isolated. And that metaphorically symbolizes, them literally being alone and isolated. And it's kind of like she was it was kind of like a calling, because Thompson said that the reason why she goes to Gotham is for some supernatural stuff going on that she has to investigate. So that is something. But with Cal and really with the cape and everything like that, she has heard stories of like this, say, this fallen angel or something like that,
Hmm.
and especially with the cape and is glowing red and everything like that. So he is
He's a she hears about a demon because remember her first arc.
right. Either he's called a demon or an angel or something like that, something supernatural.
Hmm.
So she follows it, getting clues and how people describe him. At first, some people say he's this, just it seems like he's this human man or something. Some describe the cape, his as his wings. He has red wings, or just something
Hmm.
like that. So the more she talks to people and that he has come across, the more she is having this picture in her mind of what he's supposed to look like and preparing herself basically for which way do I go with this approach. And once she sees him, it's kind of like you are everything that they described you as, but actually everything that they didn't. It's such a surprise to her. And to see his or to feel his loneliness, and they finally have that talk. I think that honestly,
Ooh, you could have a moment where like she's like hovering above the ground and he starts hovering too, and he just says, "You're like me."
well, yeah,
Hmm.
I would say that he isn't as talkative. It would be
Yeah.
her.
Oh, Soul's talking. Calzera goes, "Are you okay, Clark? Your heartbeat just picked up." And Sumit's like, "Shut up, Soul."
I mean, if you want to go that, but
Hmm.
it would be more so, yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely would be Soul that's trying to get him to, interact, especially, yeah, with having someone that can fly like him, that
Hmm.
in a sense, has that same sort of aura, that he has, or um, something like that. He just feels like, oh, this is someone who is the same, but I'm still afraid to get close to you because I don't know if even you or am I going to cause you danger? Are you going to cause me danger? Or, something like that. So it's still very questionable. In a very, Diana peeps already that it's going to be something that takes time. It's not going to be, or he's not going to be someone who's just automatically open to her, and she understands that.
Hmm. I like that. I like that. So then we get to the Kryptonian who remembers versus the Amazonian who dreams.
So again, Diana, she's the one that's so just like herself in the main line, very optimistic. She is a dreamer because her dream is to reunite with her mother and sister. So, but with Cal, it's more like just waddling, in this realism that he doesn't have that dream. He doesn't know what to dream of because that was taken away when Krypton was destroyed.
Yeah. And yeah, and it's like and it's like and it's an interesting, like, what's the word, like reversal in the idea that, like, as you say here, it's like he's like, because normally what happens, I remember, she left as a baby. Left is a generous term, but you know what I mean. And it's like she has no memory of who her people are. And then you could also make it where they have a conversation where, like, Diana goes, I was taken from my home as a child, I have no memory of my people. And Clark goes, take it from someone that like watched his world burn. That may not be a bad thing.
Exactly. Something like that. It'll basically be them a little. I wouldn't want them antagonistic.
No, absolutely not. And you could have it where like she points to his logo and he goes, and like the cape and stuff, and he goes, yeah, but like you carry the ghosts of your people with you everywhere you go. They're still with you in a way.
Right. It's like you still have at least something of your people with you. I don't. I have to continue on searching for it. And I think that Cal, with the help of Soul, will want to help her with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And maybe he like travels because remember, he's a world traveler, and maybe he tells her about certain like stories he's heard or certain legends about like these women that like are like for what like peacemakers have said are like enhanced or like metahumans, or like you heard legends of like a Gorgon or something like that, and that may have a clue to Diana finding her people.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the other thing that Britt and I had to do, because as you guys have probably put together, Britt and I are big fans of Lara and Circe. So we were like, so we have Superman Wonder Woman meeting, and Circe's obviously alive, and there's a chance that Lara's alive. So I'm like, what if Circe and Lara also met? So Britt, elaborate.
I would say that, with Lara and Circe, of course, I love when DC, in a respectful and rightful way, emphasize on motherhood and the mothers, and give them a perspective, and have them more influential. Like I said, post crisis Lara, she's always this mute, crying on Jor-El's shoulder, and she doesn't have a voice of her own. But we see right here with Absolute is that she is the fighter. She is the scientist. She's the one that takes charge.
Ooh, Britt, I got an idea.
Mhm.
Not for a story, for this. So, if we wanted to go with the romantic route between the two, between Superman and Wonder Woman, here's what we do. You know my theory I've had about like her like having this aura that makes people at peace? It's like there's a scene where like after they've gotten to know each other, they've shared some adventures. They're standing on like a mountaintop, kind of like in Superman Wonder Woman 12, and Superman says, "You really are remarkable, you know that?" And then Diana says, "What do you mean?" He goes, and then he like runs a finger over her cheek and goes, "I don't know what it is about you, but whenever I'm near you, I feel something I haven't felt since before my planet blew up." And then she goes, "What's that?" And then he goes, "At peace." And then they kiss for the
Aw.
first time. Because that's my theory. How like it's been said multiple times that like Diana in the Absolute book that like Circe felt like softening just by being near Diana. So it's my theory that that's a passive power that Diana has, that people around her like become more at peace, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. We see that even with Circe. Circe was sort of like herself, very nonchalant, or just, she wanted to basically kill baby Diana at first, until she yeeted the snake. Um,
Literally yeeted. I love that. I love how the onomatopoeia is literally yeet.
yeah, and but as we saw in the panels, because of Diana's aura and because of her just everything, the cave became a home. It was all dark and dreary and stuff like that. And then over time, Circe made it feel like, you know, basically their little apartment, very comfy for them. Diana befriending the demons from hell, that is such a it speaks volume on her character and on her spirit. So yeah, if you can have Diana basically um be that spirit, that calming spirit for Cal, it makes sense because in pre-crisis, she was that. She was his moral compass. She was his conscience. I think it was, I want to say Action Comics uh 666,
Oh God.
which is weird. Yeah, the
Yeah,
the
I know.
numbers
I
are
was about
weird.
to say, oh no.
But it was a panel where he was like on the moon or something, and Diana appeared, but she was his conscience basically.
Hmm.
And a lot of times we see Diana is the one he goes to talk to, because of that understanding, or Cal is the one that Diana needs to talk to, and he becomes her support.
And you can
So
have a scene like that where where they basically say, "I will be your sentinel." Yes, I'm using a Tomasi line, but this is the good Tomasi line, and they don't just mean combat. It's like, I will be your confidant, your supporter, and yes, your lover if we're going in that direction.
right, I still think that it should be very slow burn,
Oh yeah,
you know.
it would be slow burn for sure. I'm saying once we get to that point, that's where you can take it.
Right. Um and again, to have them a little bit, not so much as antagonistic, but that sort of push and pull type thing of Cal just feeling like this is one thing, another thing that he doesn't want to, it can't be taken away from him.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. And it's like she encourages him to never forget where he comes from. And it's like, no, your home may not have been perfect, because he would obviously have told her about like the problems with Krypton, but then you could have her go. The very fact that you came from there says that Krypton was not all bad.
That, but you can also compare it to the gods as well,
Yeah, yeah,
of
absolutely.
how the gods are in control and they have basically taken away, even if, the higher class Kryptonians took away their planet, Cal's home. Well, the gods took away Diana's home from her. So
Hmm.
that is something else that they could see, that, you know, whoever is basically in high power has this control, and they destroy lives, and they, basically don't know who they're messing with.
Oh God, yes. Oh, and you know who else is in this universe, Britt?
Who?
Apollo. It's
So basically, you want a
a multiversal
mythic.
constant that Clark kicks his ass. Yes.
That is hilarious.
Oh, can you imagine also Absolute Clark meeting Circe? And he's like, he looks around the island and he goes, "This is where you grew up?"
Well, I mean, he would, I don't know if he would be like, well, this is kind of cool, or the fact that he does have to take a bath in a volcano.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of like, well,
No,
I'm in the pits of hell. So
she could say, "You bathe in lava."
exactly.
And then
So
Circe from that meeting is like, she doesn't say anything, but she's like, Diana, so you have chosen. Because it's like she knows you don't argue with someone like this unless there's something there.
right,
But
that'd be cute.
yeah, exactly. And again, after much build, because we're not rushing it like the New 52, obviously. Anyway, speaking of New 52, though, we have again the greatest. Again, the fact that Lara, when you think about Lara, here's the thing. She built the escape ship. She straight up saved her entire people, pretty much. Not just her son. Because normally in the main universe, because they just make one ship, it's just the son that they save. No, she, for life, as far as we know, she saved her people.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, okay, so I think I was going back to one thing that I was saying.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
With Circe, she also reminds me of Hippolyta. Um, in a sense of that she's, of course, she didn't desire a kid, and she didn't, but the fact that, again, Diana's spirit made a home for her, she is now coming into terms with being a mother, and the fact that she's so overprotective of Diana and she, longs for her to be protected. And even if she did have sort of like this hidden agenda type thing, or she didn't care, or just anything like that, Diana's presence just changed her whole mentality. And I think that that is also something that Thompson did quite well. I would say that I don't need Circe declawed too much, I still need that sassiness from her, but it still reminds me very much of the relationship between Diana and Hippolyta, which is very familiar, but we still have that mother-daughter relationship. And I think that that is the part where Thompson was also referring to as organically feminist. And she is, hitting that stride. But in also with tying that back to Lara, again, she doesn't take a backseat to Jarrell. She continues to be at the forefront, even with making the suit, with, saving him and everything, saving Jarrell and everything like that. And you see that she was also the smartest, you know, and she was the top scientist and everything like that. So when you put these two together, their ideologies and just that, I think that they will have a lot of tension in philosophies as well, because Circe was, I think she felt like she gave up in a certain sense, especially with being a prisoner on the Isle. But Laura didn't, even though she remained in that class, but knowing how smart she is, it was kind of like she was trying to go under the higher power.
And
Circe,
she proved how meaningless the class system was.
exactly. It was basically like she was the one that really made the difference. Circe kind of gave up, and she's just like, well, if I'm going to rot here, I'm just going to rot. And it wasn't until Diana who gave her that she's going to help Diana. She's going to, at least through her, push Diana to be the one to defeat that higher power, which is the gods.
Yeah, exactly. So either of them are fighting against, like, or in terms of Circe building toward the fight, because she hasn't directly confronted the gods. Well, actually, yeah, she has against like Hades. But the point is, because that's obviously that's what I at least detected is the confrontation they're building to eventually is that Diana and Circe will eventually battle the gods. And it's like they're both battling against seemingly impossible odds. Diana against the gods, and then actually, here's the thing: Lara is also fighting against the gods of her people, the Science Council, aka Science. So, interesting thing: you have the mythological versus the scientific.
Exactly. And that is always that deep dive or the contrast with Clark and Diana's worlds is that
So in
they
other words, not the pinky toe in a cup of water.
exactly. And it's not something that can be, just that it's not so much as oil and water because it can mix. It's just the fact that it takes a lot of creativity to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
But their contrast, and those similarities, the fight is similar, but it's just contrast by, like you said, the scientific and the mythological. But at the same time, it's something that can still go hand in hand. You know, kind of like in the main line with Wonder Woman 170. 170. Diana is so funny of those little details of how Diana was working with steel, and it showed how smart Diana was and intelligent she was, and especially how ingrained in science she was as well.
Mm-hmm.
And to know that she worked so closely with steel that she met his grandmother, and with Cal, too. And she asked Lois, "Have you met Steele's grandmother?" And Lois just had like nothing to say. And also how she calls him Cal and how personal that name is for him. It was seen as, if you call him by Cal, if you know him by Cal, you know Clark, Superman, and Cal, the whole man. But with Lois at that time, she only knew Clark and she
And
only
still
called
Clark,
him
because
Clark.
she doesn't call him Cal even today.
Right. And I think that that's the problem. No, I know that that's the problem with DC is how attached and how connected Clark and Diana, you know, were. And so they've actively undermined, and again with the revisionist history, and you turn everything about them to something so negative and ugly. Just because she calls him Cal, that is his birth name. And in pre-crisis and early post-crisis, if you called him that, that was a personal thing. That was that sign that he has brought you in, into his whole world, as one man. But now when Diana calls him that, it's like, oh, she just sees the alien side, or
That's what
the
some
lower
people
powers.
accuse that of being, and I go, tell me you didn't actually read it without telling me you didn't actually read it.
Right. But again, it still goes with Diana and the Amazons are still, rooted in mythology and the mythological, but at the same time, very rooted in science as well, very
Mm-hmm.
advanced. And so you can marry that all together. And so with Clark and Diana, you can connect them practically seamlessly.
Yeah, exactly. So then you get to, let's talk about Lara first. And again, now here's the interesting thing about this. She has always tried to fight for the people in her class. So you could say being a champion of the oppressed really runs in the family, couldn't you, Britt?
Exactly. Exactly. That is, again, it's not something that Cal has to have the Kents for only. He doesn't have to have Lois as his grounding or anchor or whatever. It's just everyone that he comes across that's, positive, whatever, has a positive influence on him. And the first thing, regardless, whether he grew up with them or not, the L should always be the first, champions of their people. And
Mhm.
that was the thing. Jarrell and Laura equally
Yeah.
were fighting to save their planet. And they were trying to use the method of, science, but it's kind of like that whole thing pretty much it backfired because of the higher power. But at the same time, you know, they still put up a good fight to fight for their people. And in turn, their son is doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And we could have Diana say that to him. It's like you're continuing the true legacy of your people.
Nice.
Yeah, I anticipate probably a crying cat gift that will be showing up in my inbox pretty soon. Or don't worry, there's still time for me to squeeze it out of you. So then we get to Circe, absolute Circe. And the thing about Circe is it's the story of absolute redemption, if you will, because obviously it's like we see that like the thing about Cersei is that that she was like in there for like, and she was a bitter person when we first meet her, and then it's like again, it's a lot of Absolute Wonder Woman is the concept of motherhood and how it changes someone for the better. Because when you think about it, it's essentially like Diana like thaws her icy heart, and honestly you do see some echoes of this in the main line. Like post crisis Circe, she was always very motherly and loving to her daughter, and for a significant amount of time, particularly in the Jimenez run, her motivation was to save her daughter and to get her daughter back.
Exactly. So there is merit to Cersei being motherly or, being a mother. It's just, like I said, I don't want her to declawed.
Mm-mm. No, she can still be like protective, particularly of like Diana or something like that. It's like, but it's like if she needs to fight, I'm sure even this Cersei, if she needs to fight, she will fight. I mean, she is still a sorceress, and
Right,
everything. And it's like she made a lasso that turns you into Medusa.
right, right.
But it's like, and that's the fun part. Kelly has told you she is still like a badass because every bit of magic that Diana knows was taught to her by Cersei.
Yeah, she did teach her a lot. And it is, it's fun to see Diana cast spells and do things like that. That is the one unique thing about her besides her design.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
It's because Diana's always been kind of a magical character. It's why, like in Rebirth, when they put her on the Justice League Dark, it made sense.
yeah, I don't really care for the witchy design though,
Hmm.
it, but it's all right. It's
Mm-hmm.
fine.
Yeah, but it's like the other thing here. It's like it's like I definitely love where like Diana, where like Cersei knows the role that Diana is going to play, or has some indicator of it from Hecate, and I love it. One of my favorite lines, I think it's from 12 or maybe from 11, but it's one of my favorite conversations from the book. It's when Cersei asks, "Why use a little girl as a weapon?" And Cersei and Hecate says, because no one's gonna see her coming until it's too late. And I go, okay, you just gave me shivers. That is perfect.
Yeah, I would say that if anything, again, I still see Cersei as like Hippolyta 2.0 in
Mm-hmm.
certain instances, but it's unique enough to you still sort of root for this mother-daughter dynamic and being a like in a begrudging manner. she has to love this little girl, and she couldn't help but to love her. And, just that, just as an image of her reading the story to her. And again, the art really sells this dynamic.
And the other
Um,
thing, I love how Hippolyta exists as a separate character because at first you would think that maybe Circe's replacing Hippolyta, but no, they still exist.
no,
Which,
she's
yeah, go ahead.
exactly, exactly. She's not replacing her. It's not that. It's just more so of her, as I said, is very begrudging
Yeah,
of
exactly.
Circe having this. It's kind of like they are helping each other in a sense. Diana is helping Circe open up her heart, basically warm up, as you said, warm up her icy heart, and having this new perspective of life, of a certain, type of love, things like that. And then Diana learns magic and how to fight and everything like that from this sorceress. And she also learns about sacrifice, but also, to do everything you can
The other
to.
thing, Britt, have you noticed how Diana always has two moms?
Right. She
Isn't that
had
interesting?
she had Julia, she had Hippolyta and Julia in post crisis. Um in New 52, she had Hippolyta. I would say
And
that,
maybe Hera?
well, Hera is the evil stepmother,
Yeah, but it's
the scorned stepmother. I would say even Hesha. I would definitely say Hesha.
mhm.
The way she was supposed to be written, with Sewell, I would definitely say Hesha was that. Um, Rebirth, our issue with Rucka is just, yeah, that is what it is. So she didn't have that.
Mhm.
But here, yeah, having Hippolyta, even if she didn't grow up with her, and then having your adoptive mother being Circe, yeah, is always Diana having two mothers. And that pretty much, again, that is like a one step up from the Rebirth mainline era right now.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's like a lot of what the absolute universe is doing, Brit. It's repair. I know it's not doing it to the main universe, but I think you know what I mean. What I'm about to say. It's repairing the damage that DC Rebirth did to DC.
I mean, they thought that Rebirth was repairing things from New 52, but,
It's like when you want to repair a house, but you blow it up instead.
exactly, exactly.
So then we get to, so tell us, Britt. I may have to send you a crying cat gift, but tell us of the moms meeting.
Okay, so obviously Laura is not, of the living. So, but she does have, um,
Yeah, as far as we know.
yeah, but say for instance, if she wasn't, but yet her conscience is still somewhere, and it was kind of like a, in a sci-fi magically kind of way transported into Soul. So Cal has Soul and Lara as a conscience, just as we see him have Jarrell, in main line when he goes to the fortress and have the crystals and everything like that. This time it's Lara. So, but even if she is a projection, it's a full body projection. She can walk, it basically a living AI, but
Mm-hmm.
in the way of, I would say, Alfred in the new Batman run,
Mm-hmm.
how they're using him in that sense. I would say it's like that. So you have these two mothers, they finally meet, and Laura is just her confident self that we saw in Superman, uh the first issue. But I would say that Circe is the one that's a bit of standoffish. So
Mm-hmm.
they're the total opposite of their kids. Diana is the one that's open, just like Laura. And then Circe is like Cal, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and Circe basically she tells her, you know, you wanted your child to venture off, you know, for him to learn everything he can. You try to teach him, you know, you are basically able to relish in the beauty of your world. But my child had to be hidden away. You know, I had to hide her from, you know, the world that she does belong to. Um, and she does have that resentment of, even if I have to be on the aisle, you know, I would rather be here alone. But to have a child here, yeah, we made the best of living here, but at the same time, because of Diana's spirit, she just felt like still she deserved better. But Cersei still, not Cersei, Laura is still like, yeah, but from what I see, Diana still has this light regardless. Like, even if and it goes back to the absolute universe, basically the main message of, even if this world is, you know, full of darkness, dark side influence, our children, or especially Diana, still has this light within her.
And that's the really, really great part about Absolute, because even if you read Absolute Evil, that little one shot, Wonder Woman is the one that they're all scared of. They're like, oh no.
Right. So you see that she is the influence of it all, you know, and as Scott Snyder said, she is the nexus point. You know, she is the one that brings it all together because she is a light, you know, regardless of, is it dark side, or whether it is mainline or in Elseworld, Diana is supposed to be the moral compass. She is supposed to be that conscience and the light for everyone. So when we have stories like Injustice or uh, Kingdom Come, I would say is an exception because she was supposed to go through things, but she was still that moral compass and still that voice of reason after a while. She was still going through her own things, still jaded, but she still didn't want to give up on certain things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that would be the same here. Um, so what Laura basically does to Cersei is, again, that reversal of the children, of their kids. Cersei is now letting her guard down. And this is the first time she's actually been able to talk to another mother, in a sense, to basically let out how she felt. You know, because all this time, however old Diana's supposed to be, honestly peg Diana. I honestly think she's like 21. I
I
don't,
would say so, around that at that age.
yeah, so say just hypothetically 21 years of just her and Diana, and now she finally gets to truly let out her feelings. And Laura, she basically is there to listen to her. You know, she doesn't really have an issue. Laura's only issue is that she couldn't save her planet and that her son is alone. But at the same time, he's not alone because if, you know, whichever way his relationship with Diana goes, he isn't alone. Of course, they will build up to the absolute, um well, they can't be called the Justice League because I think the absolute evil has that sort of
Mm-hmm.
name or whatever. So whatever team up they're gonna call them, they have that. And then you have these team ups, you know, with the absolute characters. So he is building a new life, a new world and stuff, but it's still that she knew the potential of Krypton and she felt like she could have saved it. So she does have that bit of regret.
Yeah, exactly. And I adore that. By the way, Britt, you should check your Twitter DMs because I sent you crying cat gifts.
I got three. Did I get three?
You did your job, so I believe in rewards because the other gif I want to send is the pen on fire because that was really good. My God, you keep doing this to me, woman.
I mean, honestly, the I would say that the ideas are always there for me. You know, again, a mother-daughter, motherly relationship, I can, you know, write out of pretty much personal, influence, especially with the relationship that I have with my mother and how close we are, and that protectiveness and that love and, pride that you have. Um, and I see that with Hippolyta and Diana, so that pretty much influenced, how I write them.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and then with everything else, as just rewriting, it's kind of like it's so obvious and pretty much simple. Maybe it is that natural feeling of creativity in writing that I have, but it's kind of like it, the answer is so simple to me, But I do appreciate the compliment that you think it is
I may be biased,
something.
but that's just me.
I still appreciate it.
Oh, and don't worry, I'll get my crying cat gifts, particularly after I read you my 2 ideas I have right now. Anyway,
Hmm.
all right, Britt, it's time to get to our reviews. Britt knows what's coming. So a new issue of Tom King's Wonder Woman came out. By the way, the dichotomy of man, we go from a good series to guy taking a bath in a rat tub. What the hell is this, Tom King?
Let me mute this for a little bit longer so I can get this out.
All Britt sent me was the picture of Mouse Man in the tub with the rats. And I love where we both agreed. She's, by the way, why does she still have that stupid braid?
I can't stand that
She
braid.
doesn't have the baby. There's no reason for it.
I really like it. I guess it's supposed to be some type of lone wolf type thing. I don't know, but it's
Also,
it's
he
really
crushes her tiara and has the power to do so, even though they don't explain that. And it's like, so we get the basic crap origin. And the thing is, so it's the idea that like is that these people want to go to an island where there's no superheroes. Okay. And then I love where like there's crime. So Mice Man creates a gang, but he dresses like a leather daddy and is like pants, a like mouse hat, like he's going to Disneyland, and is wearing a jacket but no shirt. Like that's supposed to be intimidating. No, that's terrifying. And how he carries rats with him everywhere. He like has a pet rat that's like that's like essentially as large as a cat, and he pets it. There's no explanation. And then he fights Diana, and then when Diana goes, you should not be able to do this, he literally starts like a rat. And I'm like, what the hell is this?
yeah, that is I don't know. I
Also,
don't even know how to explain it.
how about the fact that the child is conditioned to say Mouse Man knows and not like actually talk? They don't explain. How do people understand what everyone's saying with the whole Mouse Man knows BS?
That is I don't even think Tom King knows how to explain that. How are you is it the way you supposed to like say it in tone or something? How do you just talk saying those two sentences or whatever?
I don't know. And it's like, and then it's like, and then he takes a bath with the rats, and then it looks like he's orgasming by the rat.
I was going to say that, and then I was kind of like, I'm not trying to. I didn't want to think that, because that was gonna make
I
me.
didn't think that until Jim from Weird Science said that when we reviewed it. He goes, "It looks like he's orgasming," and I go, "What?"
That is awful. Oh my God. If that is, oh wow, that just.
Hmm. Like, what the hell, Britt?
Please no. I do not want that. Like, literally the bleaching GIF, like GIF, whatever. No,
It's the SpongeBob fish. My eyes. Well, the other thing,
no.
and then to top it all off, Trinity's abducted, and I go, that is why you don't bring your kid into a combat zone.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's a contrived thing that wanting people to care for Trinity, but honestly, everyone is pretty much, well, who read the book because no one cared to, bring it up, but whoever read the book, we don't like Trinity. So,
Well, here's the
Mouse
funny
Man,
part, Britt. So Robert told me that he was at his comic book store packing up his pulls. Someone walked right in, put the issue on the desk, on the counter, and literally said, "Take Wonder Woman off my pull list."
I mean,
I
yeah.
wonder how many people are like that. And it's like, what in the name of who approved this? And it's like, by the way, did you notice this is how you know Sampera got lazy? Because in one of the pages, it's the panel of like Diana standing there as Mouseman circles her is the exact same panel, including the exact same pose for Diana. And she just stares ahead as Mouseman circles her. And I go, that's the exact same panel, bro. And I'm like, what?
You're
What?
honestly starting to see that a lot
Mm-hmm.
with um with a lot of artists, being a little um lazy and repeating the same panels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's like with this, it's like I expected more from Sampere, and it's just the more that this goes on, I know people are like, when is this going to end? It's probably going to end soon. I can guarantee you that. In fact, Britt and I may or may not know some things. But the thing is, just get rid of this girl. As soon as he leaves, just right. And that's the funny part is that Diana's kid being kidnapped. I wonder if they're setting up a retcon because remember the Trinity series is delayed.
I don't know. I think that it was. I wonder. I mean, Belan hasn't really posted anything,
The last time
else.
she posted about it was to say that she's done.
Exactly. So, but I don't think if they were to have rewrites or something, I don't think she would say anything about it.
And here's the thing, that could be she was done with everything plus the rewrites.
That's true. Because I mean, unless it is just to align with the end of this arc, because it was going to, it seems like the Mouse Man arc is still going, like, now that you have her basically kidnapped or whatever. So it's probably going to end at issue 30, and that is when he wants it to be, both of them come out at the same time. I don't know.
I don't know. All I know is that King has given indicators that he wants to leave the book, and I'm like, good effing riddance, bro. Get him off. The book never referenced this run. Let's just make it like a bad memory, or like not even a memory, because likely what will happen is that as soon as he leaves, we'll have the scenario where they'll be like, "Hey, remember when Tom King wrote Wonder Woman? Tom King wrote Wonder Woman." Anyway, that's the way I feel like the fan discourse is going to be.
Yeah, probably so. I mean, I honestly think that what Tom King, he is definitely wanting to have, Steve back alive, and he wants to have that family moment or whatever that he thinks people are going to care for. But if it is to where it's too much and, you know, he has to leave before then. I think that he's going to do that whole wrap up thing in the Trinity book. But the Trinity book, it didn't chart, right? Or it charted
Started
lower.
extremely low.
Yeah, so no
And
one
here's the
cares.
thing, Britt. Here's what I could see happening. They end the run and then do what they did with Batman. Give him a 12-issue mini-series that lets him complete the story however he wants, and that may or may not be canon to his run.
I mean, yeah, and then and that was the way that they retconned or, got away from Batcat being a couple. So yeah.
Yeah, but the more I see, it's like every single issue. Now, here's the thing, Britt. Be honest, knowing that there is a possibility that this is all ending soon, doesn't that make this issue hit a little less hard?
No, it's still sugar honey iced tea.
Well, I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's good at all. I'm just saying
No, I'm
the
saying
effect of it is like, oh, okay, it's ending soon.
no, it's still hard because it's still going. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
you
I
know that
see.
it's ending, but it's still like going. Okay, put it this way. The fact that, yeah, they were ending, New 52 Superman, but, and they left, a lot of dangling threads for, or even Sewell, leaving the book of Superman and Wonder Woman,
Mm-hmm.
or how they take, writers off books and they're midway, through their arc, or they cancel the book before it starts or midways. But yet, you have this book that's so controversial and obviously not well received, and you continue it anyway, and you drag on these storylines that no one cares for. Is controversial. Um, but as I said before we started, there's a difference between it's controversial because the fans, they're just wanting wanting their way
Mm-hmm.
and not liking something, but yet the concept and the book is still selling though. Just like Superman and Wonder Woman, it was still DC's top seller. But with this, you actually see the sales going down drastically. And then with Trinity herself having a solo book,
Mm-hmm.
you see how that is just falling like a brick. So there's the difference. Differences in
despite all of the marketing it got.
exactly. So, like I said, that's the difference between fans actually putting their, money where their mouth is. Is you have some that, or speaking with their wallets, the wallets are closed for um Wonder Woman and Trinity. But with Super Wonder, it was obviously open despite, people having things to say. Even now, uh DC has these comic book displays and everything in little convenience stores or gas stations or whatever. And they had a Superman and Wonder Woman one book
Mm-hmm.
printed. So it's kind of like, oh, so you're still printing issues of this book that, well, you retcon the couple out or whatever, you pretend it doesn't exist, but yet you're still printing the book for some reason, so
Mm-hmm.
obviously it has some merit. But again, you undermine something that, despite its so-called controversy, it's still sold, but yet this is something that you continue to drag on. It just doesn't make sense when we know that there are at least some writers, even if it's someone that's not exactly well known, or, someone safe, definitely not Rucka, but someone else very safe out. And no, yes, Mo, not her either,
Mm-hmm.
but someone else that could at least just give a sense of peace for the Wonder Woman fandom and write just some type of mellowed out story to get away from King would be just, like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, my opinion is first let's get him off. We can off the run. We can deal with whoever is the next writer, but first that's the first step. Is to get him off the book. Now, the likely candidates to be offered the book would probably be Kelly because she has the history with the character, and she's an Eisner Award winning. She made the character an Eisner Award winning series, where Tom King's Wonder Woman is the multi Eisner Award losing series. I love that I can use that as a label. That will always be a label on this series, though. The multi Eisner Award losing series, Tom King's
Right.
Wonder Woman. We should make an honest trailer. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine if we made an honest trailer for like those honest movie trailers, but for Tom King's Wonder Woman run? That would be so great. Multi Eisner. It was so good. It lost every Eisner it was nominated for.
Hilarious.
Anyway, but it's like deal with that. And it's like if you go with that, or like even Jeremy Adams would be a good option. But it's like if you put someone on the book, this is what Absolute Wonder Woman proved for a year. If you put someone on there that loves the character and understands the character, which Tom King obviously doesn't on both counts, look at the sales you get for Wonder Woman. It's not that hard. Anyone that tells you that Wonder Woman's a hard character to write for is freaking lying.
Right. She's not a hard character unless you make it hard and unless you never care for her in the first place and you don't have any investment. But Diana's story, yes, it is complex, is because it's from a female perspective. And again, I'm always on the side of it doesn't matter what gender you are as a writer, or what gender, you identify with. It's all about caring for the character and not just writing the character for a gimmick or, like Tom King, where editorial asks you and it's just like you want this sort of accolade that you wrote every character in DC. It's kind of like you wrote Batman or the whole I wrote all of the Trinity. You wrote Batman, now you're writing and destroying Batman and or destroyed Batman. Now you're writing Wonder Woman and destroying her. So your next step is you want Superman and destroy him or whatever like that. He's kind of like that Grim Reaper meme, going to door to door type thing. That's basically what this is.
That's Tom King whenever he goes in the series. As Jim says, Jim from Weird Science, you may like Tom King as a writer. You like Tom King as a writer until he writes your favorite series. Or it's not necessarily that you like him, but you don't necessarily care. You're like, all right, fine. How bad could he be? When he writes your favorite character, as Britt and I have learned the hard way, you learn how he doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
And that's really the sad part. But hopefully soon we won't have to deal with this BS anymore. And then we can just, again, consider this a bad memory and just say, okay, we won't have to deal with this anymore. If the next run is bad, we're going to have to deal with it. But it's like for right now, let's just see what the future holds for Wonder Woman. I still maintain this could be me being the eternal optimist that I am. I still maintain that I think that the series is gonna rebound when he leaves. I think we are on the verge of a Wonder Woman renaissance, but we'll see. What do you think, Britt?
I mean, I would hope so. If you are to have a movie coming out, in the next 2 years for her, you would want her to have like at least one good book. And it being her main line. Yeah, she does have the absolute, but you still want the main line to have something, positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would imagine so. And I think that, here's the thing, Britt, particularly with Zaslav designating Wonder Woman as like one of the pillars of DC, because he specifically named her, that puts pressure on DC that they can't think of her as just a not priority anymore. They have, because otherwise if her stuff keeps falling, DC's gonna look at it like, or like Zaslav's gonna look at it like, what the hell are you guys doing? But anyway, that's where I think we're at. And again, if I'm wrong about this being about us going toward an eventual Wonder Woman Renaissance, I'm wrong. But you know what? I'd rather hope and be wrong than not hope at all. But anyway, that's where I'm going to leave it. Britt, do you have any stories you want to tease us with?
Okay, so as I said, the Odyssey and um, Shelter will be holiday chapters, so that will be, in time for the holidays. I do have some one shots, and I am working on one that's kind of like a fast forward in betweener for Odyssey that sets up another story that I've already told Jared about a couple of days ago. Um, and a hint of it, it does involve um the legacy of the Amazons, and especially with Olympia, just getting to know and become more connected and rooted with her Amazon roots. And then I have the last chapter of Awakens is still working, but it's midways. And a few more uh, short 3 to 6 chapter stories. And I also have a story that is Nubia focused. Um, yeah, so it's just a little bit here and there. And I do have some Twitter polls that I will be continuing doing for, what will be the next Wonder Woman thread. It seems like, well, it will be the rewrite of Trinity, that basically, if we have to have her, how would she be rewritten to be accepted, in continuity and for the fans? And also just veer the focus back on Wonder Woman herself and the original, um, conflict was with the Amazons. So, yeah, the next poll will be up Thursday, and the runner up for this one was the love interest, and I just feel like so many people are just being messy and controversial. So we will see what will be the next winner for the Wonder Woman threads.
Hell yeah. Now, before we go, there's one more thing that I want to say is that obviously, if you guys were watching any of my content, you know that. So this is coming out on Monday. So last week, but still, we're celebrating 5 years as a channel. And I really need to say this. It's like this show really is what propelled Comics League into like the heights that it is today, because yeah, it was growing before Britt and I started doing this, but the Super Wonder Legacy show is what real, because the number one thing they tell you about YouTube is find a way to distinguish yourself, because there's so many comic book channels. No one talks about Super Wonder like Britt and I do, except to crap on it, let's be honest. But with this has led to a lot of changes. It's like, and changes for the better, because Britt, as much as you like to pretend that you're black-pilled on a lot of DC stuff, you talking about Wonder Woman is why I started the Amazon Answers and Wonder Woman Wednesday, and why I made that pivot, and why Wonder Woman became my favorite character in DC. It's you. So it's like, you must like her in some respect.
I mean, I appreciate the compliment of, helping you get into the character. And I do love the concept of the character. I do love the character. And yes, I am black pilled. Like, I am full of pills of, DC and their shenanigans of ruining these characters who have so much influence, positive influence. And again, you're undermining dynamics and storytelling potential and the creativity, with these dynamics and relationships that should be, you know, far further than what it is. You continue to spin your wheels and rinse and repeat, storylines and stuff like that. It shouldn't be that way. And also, again, being an advocate for the multiverse, utilize it, you can give these different relationship chances to, to flourish and even be, your own competitor. Why not have a book with Super Wonder and then you have a book with Clois or something like that and let it compete, let it whatever, you know, you're still as a company, you know, still getting the money for it. So it's a win-win for them. Um,
Exactly.
but just the fact that you're so petty with these characters again that are supposed to be influential and you are ruining their message, and especially with the immigrant message or the otherworldly outsider message, you want them to conform to societal ways, and not all of that is you know well intended. So you need these characters to be a positive advocate for, that unique normalcy, your own comfort, not just the comfort of society. So
Mhm.
yeah, I am going to be harsh and stuff like that on the way DC have these characters because I don't like it. And I don't know when there will be a story or something that will truly get me back into that fandom type feel. But again, if I am still able to at least speak positively on the things that I did love on it, um, did love of it, and you know, the potential that I see or the characters that I know they can be, then that's fine. But it does still, this cold heart for DC is warmed, to know that there are fans who still love the characters.
Well, and it's also, again, it's like, so when people say that like it's great that like I'm the guy that like really covers Wonder Woman, it's because of her right here, and I really want to thank you for that, Britt, and thank you for joining me on this journey because, again, for the I've said this before, Britt has been associated with Comics League in some way since the very beginning of the channel, because she was always my source and stuff for like a lot of the information on DC and such. And that was like, so she was a part of like shaping this channel into what it grew into, and I really want to thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I mean, I was just writing the fan fictions, you know. Speaking on the characters, as we do, was not something that I ever thought of, would happen. But you brought that to me, and I am still very grateful for that because it's a lot that I think that within the stories, you can convey so much, but with actually talking it out, that really gives a platform to really speak my mind on these characters. And I want to thank you, Jared, for bringing this platform because you do open it up you know, to all fans, as long as they're respectful, of course. But, people who, whatever their opinion is of Superman and Wonder Woman as a couple, as individuals, or whatever status quo they enjoy, you still give that platform. And that's what we need more of, a positive, you know, um, outlet instead of, being on that bird app with all that toxic back and forth stuff, and again, it is for entertainment, at the end of the day. But you will socialize, you will meet people, and, have this friendship. And I very much cherish our friendship. And like I said, I thank you for bringing me on to your platform and uh, us just chatting it up about, like I said, whether I care for characters or not,
You
It's
care
still
for, let me put it this way, Britt, and you can tell me if I'm misinterpreting this. You still care about the characters because you write about them. You do this show with me. You just don't like the way they've been handled recently.
you're right.
So
Recently, I
you
mean,
still like the characters. I'm 100% sure of that. It's just, and that's totally fine. You can hate the way DC uses them or treats them nowadays.
I mean, it's been a long time, but yeah,
Yeah.
you hit it. You hit it.
I mean, hey, you like / tolerate the absolute versions of these characters.
By a couple miles, but yeah.
So there you go. That tells me there's hope because that's my job of getting you back into DC. I can do it. It's not as impossible as it seems, but yeah. But it's my pleasure, and it's even more because when I was putting together the documentary, it is just amazing how much doing this channel and show and everything has affected and changed my life for the better, and it's something that I will always cherish.
Right. Yes, it is. Oh, the cat here.
There you go. See, I told you I would squeeze it out of you.
Because it
Yeah, go
is
ahead.
it is like I said, the positivity you bring is it's with everything that's going on, just in general of like I said, that bird app is horrendous. And then reality itself is horrendous. So when you have just that one piece of positivity, you do hold on to it. So every stream that you have, you try to just keep everyone, to just have a laugh for the day, for the night, or anything like that. Um, Regardless of these companies being a mess, with these characters, it's still just fun to talk about. Just having fun, that's what people need. And again, giving other fans a platform to speak their minds. We joke about it all the time, but when we have our live um live streams, that is an open door for people to talk about Lois, So it's things like that, and they feel so comfortable. That's what it is. And you don't have to feel like you can't say whatever. Like I said, as long as it's respectful towards the person, you can speak your mind and have your own opinion, and that is what matters.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a lot of good stuff, and it is a 100% one of the greatest pleasures of my life to do this channel. I really appreciate it. But anyway, stay here, work everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is absolutely Lois Lane, and Steve Trevor, Steve Never. He belongs at the center of hell in a hydraulic press. Zois, a Maxibat for life. I will see you later. Bye.